So I think to respond to that, the framing of the tax law is actually mindful of every category of individuals, right, or corporates when this frame was done. So for those, of course, what you're referring to is remote work, right?
Mm,
Yeah, for those who work for different brands from home, and of course, there are different ways that this has been, addressed, even in the past, even before the reform. We've always had, again, you must also, let me also say in this way, in this side, that first of all, when it comes to personal income administration, it's majorly within the purview of the states. Right? For example, yeah. So those in Lagos states, or maybe Mr. Who perhaps as maybe one way or the other don't stop relating to that, could probably give us a more practical perspective. But my understanding is that, of course, every individual lives in a state, rather
mm,
working in Nigeria. You based in Nigeria, working in Nigeria. You based in Nigeria, working for another entity outside. You're actually resident in the state, and then the rule is still the same. It's about residency, right? So, whatever income you've generated from all sources, you're supposed to file a return on that. But again, for the employers of those people, in terms of the weakness you're talking about, for other form of, but this is now more like exporting services, right? For in supply of services, for example, let's say the supply of those services is outside. We've been able to address that by um, making the supplier, in this case, a non-resident company, the agent of collection for tax purposes, right? So, but in this case, for of export of those services, I think the law has also been able to recognize that your income, as long as this income is derived in Nigeria, even though the person you're working for is outside, but again, you're doing all of the work you do. So the commercial activities that give rise to that income you're earning, right? Or let me say, when I mean commercial, the efforts that or the fun, whatever you're doing it remotely, but again, you are based in Nigeria. But if we're talking about on a broader perspective, let's say we're looking at um, taxability. If what we're talking about, for example, is taxability of the entities that are
mm,
that employ these workers. So, recently the OECD, I think towards the end of last year, when we say the OECD seems to be or is not just seem to be, is um, the body that actually provides a more authoritative rules or guidance around taxation, especially cross-border taxation, when it has to do with multiple countries. So the OECD has said that if, for example, you have a worker working remotely, because what is going on now is that, and I'll come back to what the OECD says. What is going on actually is that most of the laws that we have did not envisage this situation. Yeah, that's the reality. So most of the laws we had didn't envisage a situation where somebody can sit in one country and work in another country, right? The law did not envisage where somebody can be in another country and supply services to another country. So the internet age and the digital revolution was not there when most of these laws were made. So even the OECD at the global level is just still amending its guidance towards the end of last year to say that if a multinational, for example, that is based in, let's say, in the US, has an employee in Nigeria and provided a space for the employee to work, and then decides when the employee resumes and when the employee closes, and even has more like pays the rent for the space and does all of that where the employee uses that space, has created a taxable presence for that US company, right? That's what the OECD has said. So it has created a taxable presence for that US company. So the US company is supposed to pay tax on the income that is whatever it is that it derives from that activity. So this is just saying that, again, our own system is evolving. I also believe that there's going to be a number of guidance that will be issued soon, both from the NRS and the states IRSs, to be able to provide more detailed guidance as to how these employers of youths that are working remotely will be able to administratively pay their taxes that are due on those employees. So I think that would be my comment on this.